Talks are intensifying about entering the phase 2 of the ceasefire in Gaza after the first phase is accelerating rapidly. More bodies of Israeli terrorists are being returned to the Israeli regime, and the Palestinians are getting more bodies of Palestinian abductees who were brutally slaughtered in Israeli dungeons. Despite that, Israel is still breaching the ceasefire. Israel killed over 36 Palestinians since the beginning of this ceasefire, with the worst massacre taking place just yesterday with the Abu Sha'ban family. Israel targeted them when they were trying to go back to Az-Zaytun neighborhood, because this yellow line that Israel withdrew to isn't very clearly implemented or verified, therefore people would return. What does Israel do? Israel kills all of them, every single one of them. They did not allow the rescue services to reach the place, and today we saw images that are beyond anyone's imagination about what happened in that event, images that I published on my X account. A child who was chopped in half. Israel prevented the rescue services from reaching there up until now, in the past few hours, so one day after, to make sure, of course, everyone is killed. What is the Israeli excuse? Hamas sent this family. According to Israeli sources, the Israeli army, they claimed that Hamas is trying to test the boundaries, and they sent a whole family to check if they can pass. And then what does Israel do? It kills all of them. But the problem isn't Israel by killing them without warning them. The problem is Hamas by sending them to check the borders and if they can go back to that area. If this isn't psychopathy, if this isn't sociopathy, if these aren't people who need sectioning and imprisonment and punishment urgently, what is then? Someone tell me. That's on the ceasefire front, with phase 1 and the bodies being returned and Israel breaching the ceasefire. Despite all of this, the talks are continuing to go into phase 2 of the ceasefire. As a matter of fact, they are being accelerated now, and more talks are coming out about the International Stabilization Force. An international stabilization force that will be led by Egypt. We heard about this international stabilization force when the American president proposed this deal and published it. The Israeli amendments, however, spoke about a different job that they would be carrying out inside of Gaza. The initial draft that the American president had with the Arab and Muslim leaders, it did not include certain tasks. What we know is that it's going to be called the International Stabilization Force, or the ISF. Now, a few things need to be clarified in that regard. Number one, this force will only be entering Gaza with a full coordination and acceptance from Hamas and the Palestinian resistance. The Palestinian resistance, multiple factions, said many times, no force will be entering Gaza without coordination from us. Any force that will be entering Gaza without our consent and coordination will be viewed as an occupying army and will be treated as such. Therefore, we clearly have forces here getting into the Gaza Strip with full coordination with the Palestinian side. Why is that happening? That's happening primarily to save Israel's face, not for anything else. So that Israel can say, well, there's an international peacekeeping force, and they can justify their humiliation and withdrawal from the Gaza Strip and their huge defeat to the Palestinian resistance that proved everyone wrong, and despite all of the hardship and genocide, managed to expel the child-killing Zionist forces off of the Gaza Strip. This force, we have a lot of details about this force. Who's going to go in? What's going to happen? The coordination is going to be joint. The coordination is going to be joint with the United States, Qatar, and Egypt and Turkey, primarily, the main four countries who signed this peace deal. Turkey is going to play a role after Donald Trump, according to reports from Israel, had insisted that Turkey plays a role. Turkey is viewed as a country that supports the Palestinian resistance, and Israel tried to have a veto on them entering the negotiations. However, Trump's close relationship with the Turkish president enabled Turkey to enter. And they will most likely be forming a chunk of that power and that force that will go into the Gaza Strip. However, there are other names. There are Egypt and Qatar. Indonesia was mentioned too, alongside other countries as well. However, what's for sure is no country that will be entering will be doing so without the authorization of the Palestinian side. So what are they going to do apart from saving face to Israel? Well, if they save face for Israel, they've done the majority of the job. Then Israel can claim that this force is implementing the ceasefire and making sure Hamas doesn't disarm. And as a matter of fact, according to the draft that Israel had, this force is going to be in charge of actually disarming Hamas. Is that going to happen? There is no way on earth that that's going to happen. Number one, the countries that these people are coming from are countries that are viewed more friendly to the Palestinian side, despite their open and clear relationship with the United States, some of them with Israel too. And they also don't have the capacity or the manpower to go and carry out things that the Israelis want from them. Israel put in all of its resources with the help of the British intelligence, with the help of the American weapons. Many other countries too tried to support with intelligence, with arms, with technology. Nothing worked. They tried to flood the tunnels. Nothing worked. They tried to gas them. Didn't work. They tried to have certain invasions and target them and bomb and explode, and they destroyed everything on top. That did not work. And so long as you can't hack into that system, you would not be able to disarm the Palestinian resistance, and you're not going to be able to also take down this system. And the Palestinian resistance will not be giving up all of these secrets to anyone. This isn't going to happen. But the talks are moving forward. There is now a push coming reportedly from the American side to France and other countries as well. So this is going to go ahead because they view this as a guarantee that the ceasefire will be moving forward. This is the thing that some of the countries are interested in, the ceasefire moving forward. And there is also an international resolution in relation to this actual force going into the Gaza Strip, the United Nations, and there is an international cooperation in relation to this. This means that there is a very good prospect of this happening side by side with the other developments that are going to take place with phase 2 in the ceasefire, such as Israel withdrawing more forces from the Gaza Strip, removing itself to the other line closer to the borders that it has, the border of the Zionist entity with the Gaza Strip, and also other developments in relation to the entry of heavy equipment, to the rebuilding process, the healthcare side, everything to do with the rehabilitation and rebuilding of Gaza. Netanyahu, in the meantime, is trying to stretch certain things by, for example, saying that the Rafah crossing is going to be closed until further notice. He's saying that he's not going to open the Rafah crossing now. They are allowing reportedly 608 trucks from the Karm Abu Salim and other crossings too. And that is the number that some people said would be the number agreed upon from the beginning. But more and more are saying that at least 1,000 is required to go into Gaza based on the level of destruction that happened in this past period, in the past 2 years, and of course the ongoing suffering that the Palestinian people endure and the Israeli breaches that are happening. Of course, all of this is happening in Gaza, and not much coverage is happening about the West Bank. Israel is killing people, executing them every single day in the West Bank. They killed a 10-year-old on his birthday yesterday when he was going out to play football, when his mother was preparing for his birthday, his 10th birthday. That's what they do in the West Bank. They go and destroy olive trees for Palestinians, and they also send their squatters in the occupied West Bank to harass Palestinians with the full support and in combination, joint with the Israeli army in the West Bank. This isn't stopping the Palestinian resistance in the West Bank too. We had an operation in Tubas where 2 Israeli soldiers were reportedly injured, according to Israel. Something else might have happened to them, but according to certain reports, they were injured. That's coming after a very intense operation from Israel to try and take down any remaining elements from the Palestinian resistance. It's not going very well for them. And this operation that just happened is proving that the Palestinian resistance in the West Bank still has the capacity to conduct operations against Israel. Israel, on the other hand, the provocations coming from the Israeli squatters in the West Bank that undeniably attract and create these actions against them. The people are harassed on a daily basis. They're prevented from moving. Their houses are stolen. Their properties are destroyed. They live under a hyper apartheid regime in that area. And the natural response is fierce resistance against this depraved Zionist oppression and apartheid happening in the West Bank. Israel would potentially want to use that at one point as an excuse to go and intensify its operations in the West Bank, like they did when they had certain raids, then later faced certain resistance in those areas. And they've been talking publicly about ethnically cleansing the population and sending them to Jordan. Several Israeli ministers in the government said that the West Bank belongs to Israel alongside the East Bank as well, which is Jordan, technically. And Benjamin Netanyahu himself has a very well-known plan to send the Palestinian population to Jordan. And they're constantly repeating that there's never going to be a Palestinian state, although some people are hoping that this peace deal that Trump has been talking about will eventually pave the way towards that direction. What we're seeing here and what's happening on the ground is actually a life-saving rope for Israel, so that the depraved governments supporting Israel can save face and then say, well, hold on a second, we're not going to actually cut our ties with them. We're going to stop the embargo talk. And Israel is fine now. They're headed towards peace. Go back to square one by covering up all of Israel's crimes against humanity that happen on a daily basis and try and feel better with themselves and shut down any public demands to continue and take action against Israel. What's happening on the ground is a genocide moving in slow motion, or at a lesser scale than the full-blown genocide that we saw for the past 2 years, following over 75 years of Zionist oppression, terrorism, racism, and supremacy all across of Palestine. And so long as that Zionist regime remains there and Zionism as an ideology is remaining there, we're going to continue to have this problem, because if you don't deal with the problem from its roots, then you're going to continue this problem not just for the next few years, but for the next decades. It's not going to stop anytime soon. And if there is genuine interest, both from Donald Trump and from the other global leaders as well, to genuinely punish Israel and hold it accountable to what it's done in the past 2 years, they would be at least enforcing this ceasefire agreement to a T and not allow Israel to get away with slaughtering Palestinian people from day one of the ceasefire and doing so every single day of the ceasefire itself.